Okay, let's see if my face pops up on the YouTubes now, because there's a delay on this. Oh boy. Give me just a second for this thing to catch up, make sure I'm actually on here. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, so there's like 36 people who are sitting here watching the most massive failure that a person has ever had on YouTube. And you deserve an explanation, so how about I jump right into one? Okay, so on Mondays and Wednesdays I work at the office. I have a job that is really cool that I get to work from home 3 days a week. But on Mondays and Wednesdays I have to go into the office. Just so happened that Wednesday was the first of the month, so that was going to be the first day that I was going to be posting on here and doing these live streams. So I had to do it from work. And so I scheduled it for 2, wasn't going to be an issue. And then I start trying to get on here, and it turns out there's not strong enough internet signal for me to do this there. Apparently this whole live streaming thing on YouTube anyway takes up a lot of bandwidth. So I had to reschedule it for 3, hopped in my car, raced home. It's like a 45-minute drive, ran into some traffic. I run in the house and I set this up, and then there's just one issue after another. I think part of it is because I'd already started the live stream back at the office and I didn't know what was going on. And then because my dogs had been home by themselves all day long, they're barking. And so I had to put them outside, and then they're barking outside, and then I had to let them back in, and then this thing wouldn't work, and then I'm going back and forth, and somehow I got confused with some other stream that doesn't really even exist. I don't know where it said something different on there. I don't know what that is. I don't know where that came from, and I don't know how to get rid of it. So I finally get it up and going, and then my wife comes in because she just got home from work, and she didn't know that I was doing this. So this actually ties in well with what I want to start talking about today. It's all about fear, and it's all about stepping up and doing the things that scare you. Live streaming scares me because I don't fully understand it. It seems like every time I do it, every time I think I have it down, I get thrown some curveball, and a disaster like this happens. So all of you who have been watching and have been waiting for me to get this thing up and going, I apologize, and I thank you for your patience. I knew that the first one was going to be rough. The first few probably the first week, probably the whole month is going to be rough. But I didn't expect there to be this many problems, just one right after another. Anyway, before I get going, I do want to thank a couple of different people. One is, I actually, ironically, I hopped on here last night at like 11 o'clock at night and was just trying, I was just basically experimenting. I was playing around with a few things, and it seemed, actually, it worked a lot better last night than it did just now. And there's some good people that showed up at 11, about as many as are watching right now, actually. And it was just a screwing around. I deleted it as soon as I was done because that wasn't something that was going to stay up. But I was just kind of messing around, and they were giving me some feedback and helping me to figure out how to make this work. And it was helpful. I promise you guys, it was actually helpful, despite what you're seeing right now. And there were lots of them, so obviously I couldn't tell them all by name, but I just wanted to thank any of you who did show up last night. That was very nice and very helpful, and I appreciate it. Another couple of shout outs I have to give just really quickly is, and I had this configured so I could show you this when I first sat down, but clearly I've run into some issues, so it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, point being, there's a couple of guys, one specifically, and I'm probably going to murder the pronunciation of your name, and I apologize for this, but Jatin, am I saying that right? I think I saw you in the thing. if you can correct my pronunciation of your name, I don't want to get it wrong. But Jatin Kushal has been a follower of this channel for a very long time. He and I have had lots of interactions on the Twitters, and he heard me say somewhere along the line that I was going to um, I'm looking at getting a website put up. I've been working on that for a while, and okay, I see Jatin in the Jatin. Please tell me how to pronounce it. I don't want to get it, I don't want to get it wrong. Anyway, dude has been awesome in Twitter, and he found out that I was looking at getting a website set up, that I was working on that, and he reached out to me and basically said, if that's what I can help you with that. He actually runs or works at a hosting service, and he has some designers at hand that could actually design a site for me. And long story short, I gotta apologize a little bit because I was very skeptical. I mean, it's just off. He was like, "I'll just host your site for free, and I'll design it for free. You don't have to do anything. We'll just take care of it for you." And I was like, "What's the catch?" I didn't I didn't trust him about it at first. But long story short, dude totally hooked me up. Literally, I went to bed. Maybe what was it, Sunday night, Monday night, and I woke up the next morning and they had a website set up for me with like the theme that I wanted to use and everything. And it looks great. There's nothing really on it yet because I haven't had a chance to populate it. It took them less time to build it than it will be for me to actually put things on it. But it looks great. It's already up. It's live. It's at answerswithjoe.com. There will hopefully be a lot of really cool stuff on there, including podcast. I want to get a podcast going eventually. There's going to be a store on there where you can buy books. I mean, it's all going to be just off of Amazon, but you can buy books and products and stuff like that that tie into the things that I'm talking about. It's an affiliate link, so I'll get a minor little kickback, but it won't cost you anything extra. But it'll be a place where you can, get stuff that ties into what ties into the subjects that I talk about on the show and stuff. There'll be a blog on there. It's gonna be cool, and it's something I should have had done probably a year ago, and it literally took these guys overnight to take care of it for me. And they are in India. They have servers in Paris, and I'm just some schmuck in Dallas. And the world is freaking amazing. I'm really thankful for their help. It was Jatin Kaushal and Vikyat Singh. I think I'm pronouncing those right. Please tell me. But I want to thank them because that was super cool. Totally didn't have to do it. And anyway, I feel very, very honored and I appreciate it. So, moving on. I am obviously still playing with how these live streams are going to work. I think I may have figured out how I can actually use my regular camera so that it'll look just like the normal videos that I shoot. And I'm going to find a microphone that'll work with this, so I don't want to have to do this, but this sounds the best right now. But here's basically how these are going to work. And eventually I'll get to the actual point that I wanted to get to here. But I've already blown this out of the water with the opening anyway. But basically how it's going to work, each one of these is I'm going to try to do them at 2 o'clock every day. I'm thinking the Mondays and Wednesdays ones will have to be pushed back a little bit. And these are 2 o'clock Central Time in the United States. I'm going to have to push those back a little bit because I clearly can't do them from work like I thought I could. So they may be a little bit later in the afternoon. But anyway, they're going to start with me going back over the previous day's comments that you guys leave. I really want this to be a lot of dialogue and an interaction, what you guys have to say. And so I'll start with comments from the previous day. Then I will go into whatever the topic of the day is, which will be determined previously. And once I get done with the topic, then I will respond to comments and take questions. One of the things about the live streaming that we do on the YouTube is that there's this massive delay of like 20, 30 seconds between between when I say something and you guys hear it. So I'll say something and literally 30 seconds later, things pop up on the live chat. And that can be really hard to stay on topic and hard to be in the moment when you guys are literally behind my moment. So while I'm talking, I'm not going to be referring to the chat. In fact, I may just close it off. But No, I won't do that. But I'm not going to be responding to the chat until I get to the end, and then I'll say, okay, chat is open. If you guys have questions, and it could be about the topic that I was talking about, it could be about something else, you can ask questions on there. Now, somebody else had asked, actually last night when I did my little test, whether I had Super Chat set up. For those who don't know, Super Chat is this brand new thing, like literally, it's like a week old. It's like a week and a half old on YouTube. And it's basically a way to where you guys can throw, it's like a tip basically. You can throw a little money in the jar and your comment will come out brightly colored for me to see, and I can respond specifically to that comment. This is mostly, honestly, it's mostly for really big YouTubers that have, you know, thousands of people on a live chat. I mean, you've probably been on some of them where the chat's just flying by, you literally can't read anything. The super chat is something that people can do to make sure that theirs is seen and that the person can respond to them. I'm not at that level yet, but it does exist. I did enable it. If you care to know, they used to have this fan funding feature on YouTube that they're actually getting rid of at the end of this month, and it's kind of being replaced with this super chat thing. So I went ahead and turned that off, turned the super chat on. It's there. If you want to use it, feel free. I'm not going to turn down any tip jar money, but you certainly don't have to. It's not. I don't think it's something that's going to be necessary for this. We'll see by the end of the month. Maybe I'll get a huge following because I'm doing this so well. Right. Anyway. Okay. So we'll have to take sips of water. Fear. Let's talk about fear. That's the thing that I wanted to talk about today. And again, because I've said this many times, so if it's repeated, forgive me, but I am very comfortable being on the camera when it's recorded, I can edit it, and I've got a script. I'm totally cool with that. As the channel has grown and I've gotten up to, you know, I'm at 20,000 subscribers now, I regularly get 4,000 and 5,000 views per video. And sometimes it'll kind of hit me when I'm in the middle of recording it that like, wow, 5,000 people are going to see this, you know. But even still, it's not. There's not that much pressure on me in the moment because I can edit that later. I can craft that later. But going actually live scares the bejeebers out of me. Like it really does. And when Periscope first came out, I remember I would get like scope panic every time I hit that live button. Like the thing about hitting that button, I would always have almost like a panic attack. It's like somebody's going to be watching me. And of course I had like 10 followers on Periscope, so that was ridiculous. But I get the same thing here whenever I try to do a live stream, mostly because it's a disaster happening while I'm trying to do it. Anyway, but I still get that sort of that little live panic. It's not something I'm used to. And as I had said in my my live stream that I did last week, live streaming is becoming a bigger thing. It's not going to become what this channel is. I'm still going to be doing my Monday videos like normal, but it's something that I want to embrace, and it's something that I'm scared of. To put it in the bluntest terms, I'm scared of doing it. The fact that there's 57 people watching me right now, if I was in a room talking to 57 people, I would probably be a little nervous. And that's the kind of thing that you have to walk toward. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. That's why I wanted to make fear the topic, because honestly, I'm a little scared right now doing this. And I knew I would be. And the fact that everything fell apart at the beginning didn't help. But I want to tell a quick story, because I like telling stories. So when I was growing up, I grew up in a really small town in Texas. And I played 3 different musical instruments while I was a kid, or at different stages of being a kid. I took piano lessons starting at like 7 or 8 years old, something like that. I took violin lessons after that in my early teens, and then I learned how to play trumpet in high school band. But the first one that I took was the piano lessons, and there were like 2 different people that taught in my hometown, or 2 different places where you could take lessons in my hometown. One of them was an older couple, and in one of these things that you couldn't possibly make up, life being weirder than fiction, the couple, their last name was Keys, Keys, as in piano keys. That was their actual name. Can't make that up. But I took from them for about 5 years, and they were kind of really well known. They had students that performed and competed in contests all around the country. Some really, really great musicians came out of their studio, and every year they did a recital, and it was a big deal. It literally filled the high school auditorium where they did it. Now, it was a small auditorium because that was a small school, but still, it was an auditorium full of people, standing room only, watching people playing piano. And I had to do that every year. That was kind of part of being, that was kind of part of their thing, that they wanted to teach how to perform, which I understand. But I hated the recitals. I absolutely hated doing the recitals. It was my least favorite thing. I would get so nervous, nausea, shaky. I mean, you name it. It was awful. I would get so nervous doing it. And after, I guess I took for 4 or 5 years, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore, specifically because I hated doing the recitals. I loved playing music, and I was a very musical person. It was a big part of my life, but I didn't want to be forced to do these recitals every year because I felt forced. I didn't want to do them. So I don't know, a couple of years passed after I stopped taking piano lessons, and my mom, it turns out there was somebody in my hometown that was teaching violin lessons, and she asked if I wanted to take violin. And this was one of those moments in my life where I really didn't have that much interest in it, but I just kind of went, okay. So I took violin lessons, and by the way, big credit to my mom and dad. There's nothing in the world more beautiful than a well-played violin. There's nothing in the world more awful than a poorly played violin. It's just, it's awful. It's awful. Like I've heard recordings of me playing when I first got started, and it's just like, how did they survive? I don't know how they did. But I started taking violin lessons, and I said at the beginning, I remember specifically saying, I don't want to do any recitals. And this lady didn't do recitals. So that was a big part of why I did it. I was like, I don't want to be like put on display performing and being put on the spot like that all the time. So that was why I started doing it. And within a couple of years, we started playing in front of people. We started playing at nursing homes and school events and stuff like that. And next thing you know, we were playing all the damn time. I mean, it was a constant thing. I just saw a thing from Mike Whittington. Thank you, sir, for the buck. I appreciate that. I will respond to those because, hey. But anyway, so we were playing all the time. It was the exact opposite of what I wanted. And then at one point, my grandmother comes to me and asks if I want to play at the fajita cook-off in her hometown. Now, I grew up in a really small hometown. I had a graduating class of 48, right? My grandmother and cousins, and where my mother grew up, live in an even smaller town of like 300 people in the entire town. Tiny, tiny, mustard seed on the map kind of town. So when she asked if I wanted to play their fajita cook-off, I was like, oh, all right, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. So I agreed to do it. So part of the fajita cook-off was they were having a fiddle contest, because Texas. But of course, I knew how to play Cotton Eye Joe because, of course. So I thought, well, I'll play Cotton Eye Joe. I'll bring the house down. It'd be cool. And I was not thinking it was going to be a big thing. So we get there. For reasons I am still not clear on, I still don't know how this happened. This turned out to be the National Fajita Cook-Off, held in this town that was like, seriously, there was like not even a stoplight. There was just like a blinking red light in the town. Why here, of all the places on earth? I still don't get it. I'm still baffled by that. But it was the National Fajita Cook-Off. There were 5,000 people at this event. And I walk in there and I've got my violin, and there's one stage. There's 5,000 people at this event, and there's one stage. And there's like bands up there playing, and they're all jamming out and everything. And there's like a huge crowd. And I was just like, I mean, this was more people than I had ever played to in my entire life all at once. And I should stress, I wasn't that good. I really wasn't that good. And I only did it because my grandmother asked me to, and I wanted to make her proud. I had no idea that it was going to be this. And long story short, as it got closer and closer to time to go up there, there was, I think there were only like 3 people in this contest. But the guy in front of me was up there playing. And I stood there and I had my violin in my hand. It wasn't even in the case anymore. I was just holding it in my hand. And the panic rose and the fear rose. And eventually I literally dropped my violin on the ground and I just ran. I just ran as fast as I possibly could. I got to the other side of town in 5 seconds, because you can do that. It's that small of a town. And my dad goes chasing after me. I think he just left my violin on the ground, actually. And of course, when I was a kid, I thought, oh my God, he's going to kill me. You know, he's mad at me. That's why he's chasing me. Now I realize, of course, that he probably just was mostly afraid I was going to run in front of a car or something. But anyway, he finally caught up with me, and I think he could see that I was gone. So he, put me in the truck. We drove to my grandmother's house, and I was able to eventually calm down. But the reason I tell that story is because, we all face fear at certain times of our lives, and I've certainly had my share of, moments where I was facing something I didn't really want to deal with. But that's the only time it really got the best of me, to the point that I panicked and freaked out and just like lost all reason, And I bring that up because I think those are defining moments in your life. It was definitely a defining moment in mine. Not necessarily as a failure, but it was just sort of I don't know, kind of knowing where your limit is. So I'm getting stuck here for a second. Let me take a drink. As I've grown older, I've begun to embrace more the idea of do something every day that scares you. That was an Eleanor Roosevelt quote. But I really like that quote because, Tim Ferriss once said that, we have sort of a sphere of comfort. And the more you push outside that sphere of comfort, the more life experience you're going to have, the better of a life you're going to have. And so that's something that I try to do now. And that's honestly why I'm doing this. I'm scared of live streaming. I am not comfortable not being on a script. So hey, I'm going to do a whole month's worth. And if anything, I hope that this maybe challenges you guys to think about what is inside your circle of comfort and what you could be doing to step outside of that comfort zone and push things out a little bit to grow your life and to have a better life experience, I guess. But the fear thing crops up in smaller ways too. Like that was a big dramatic story that I just told. But there's also a term that I like, and I put it on the thumbnail of this, which is lean into fear. Lean into the hesitation. Procrastination is sort of a type of fear. It's not like panic, oh my God, I'm going to die kind of fear. But it's a fear of not wanting to take that next step. Maybe, if I'm working on something and I don't quite understand how this piece over here works, and I know it's going to be a little bit painful and uncomfortable to try to figure that out, I'll push it aside a little bit because I just don't want to have to deal with that. And that's how hesitation works. That's how procrastination works. And I love the idea of leaning into that fear and leaning into the hesitation and like being mindful. Mindfulness is such a buzzword these days, but being mindful of what it is you're hesitating about at any given moment, whether you're working, whether you're out with friends, maybe you want to start a dialogue or talk to somebody and you're hesitating. Whatever it is that thing is that you're hesitating about, lean into it. Just kind of be mindful like that. That's your compass. And that's where I kind of want to wrap this whole thing up, is that the thing about fear is it can get the best of you and it can define you in really bad ways in your life. But if used properly, it can be the compass and it can be your guiding force to let you know, oh, I need to do this or I need to do that. Because usually once you push through that hesitation and through that fear bit, then that's where life gets interesting. So that was a little bit rambly. I will not be so rambly in the future. I'll try not to be, but I thought that was a fun story I would just start off with. So here's what I want to do. I do want to make this more of a conversation point. I don't want it to be me here preaching to you about getting over fear. So I want you guys to talk in the comments. So you're in the chat right now. Actually, go into the comments of the video, because the chat's going to go away as soon as I turn off this live chat. But in the comments, I want to hear if you have a fajita cook-off story. I want to hear stories about times that fear got the best of you and you took a dump in your pants and everything fell apart because the fear became too much for you. And I want to hear about like ways that you've leaned into fear, ways that you've been mindful of hesitations in your daily life and then moved toward them, and things like that. Let's talk about that down in the comments, and I will kind of bring those up at the beginning of next week, tomorrow's video. I'm so used to saying next week. It's tomorrow, which will hopefully go smoother than today did. But, and also just what are your biggest fears? What are the things that you fear the most? Some of them are universal, obviously, putting your health and life at risk. Others are more specific and weird and phobic. So let's just have some fun with that, shall we? So, that's what that was what I wanted to talk about today. Talking about fear, how it can get the best of you, and how you can use it to get the best of it and have a better life. So I'm going to take a little bit of time. I've already been on here way longer than I meant to, but at this point, you guys can talk in the live chat. Send me a question. It can be about anything. It can be about what I was just talking about. And I'm going to take a sip, and then I'll start responding to comments. I'll do that for maybe 5-10 minutes. We'll see how it goes, and then I'll wrap this up, and we'll all be on our way. I want to thank you guys for being here. I'm going to take a sip while this thing gets caught up. Now that I have facial hair, I have to do this after I drink. It's kind of gross. Clorox bleach. Joe, I have an important question in capital letters. Can you please do another video on simulation theory? I haven't really gone back to that topic, have I? I don't know what else I can add to it, honestly. I've talked here and there about issues along those lines, but I don't know. I'll think about it. I just don't know what I have to add to what I did last time. I'll think about it. My fajita experience. I was cooking a fajita on the stove, and then suddenly it fell onto the floor, which made me slip, so the fajita slipped up into me. That's disgusting. I think I know what you're saying there, and that's gross. How dare you, sir? Let's see. I like the procrastination equals fear thing. I procrastinate doing things I fear, like public speaking. Yeah. I think I still find it interesting that people fear public speaking generally more than they fear death. It's just funny that, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out philosophically what it is about public speaking that makes people scared that much of it, even more so than dying. Why did you start making videos? Okay, SLC Punked, that's a good movie. Why did I start making videos? So I was a filmmaker growing up. I went to film school. I was a screenwriter for a while, got some movies made. Well, I did a lot of like ghostwriting and stuff like that. And I made a movie about 10 years ago or so, and I did some videos on YouTube right when YouTube was first a thing. And I just enjoyed it, honestly. I was doing some just videos to promote the movie, and then I liked doing it. And I really like the idea that, like, the thing about making a movie is you have to raise a lot of money. You have to get a lot of people together. You got to do a lot of compromises, a lot of negotiation. And then, 6 months, a year later, if you're lucky, some people will see it and you'll get some feedback. The thing that I like about YouTube is I can do a video and get instant feedback. And um, there are filmmakers that I know now that I'm kind of like, dude, I get 100,000 views a month. you know, I think I could put my numbers up against theirs any day. And that's not a bragging thing. It's just I've found I like the freedom. I like being able to literally just here in my room create content that's engaging and entertaining. I can get it scratches my production itch, it scratches my writing itch, it scratches my performance itch, and my comedy itch. I get to make jokes, so it kind of just scratches all the itches, and I like it. And it seems to have caught on. So here we go. Veritasium's Our Greatest Delusion video. Yes, that's awesome. That's a good one. You could share that down in the comments. Let's see, what else we got? Let me scroll around a little bit. I've been there with the music thing. I played my first show when I was in grade 8 and was crying for an hour beforehand. Yeah, been there. Your thoughts on leaning into fear while dealing with panic anxiety disorder? I feel it has to be handled more delicately. From K Holland 504. Because I have talked about that I've dealt with that in the past. So I don't know that I could speak to that, honestly. And I'm not trying to deflect, because the panic issues that I've dealt with personally were very sporadic. They kind of would come and go. So it's hard for me to say whether or not those issues play into sort of those performance issues, like the whole fajita cook-off thing. Because to me, I don't really feel like I experience them simultaneously. I feel like that's sort of a separate thing that kind of hits me at different times in my life. So I don't know. I think it still applies, and I kind of don't want to say this because I don't want to get in trouble, and I don't want to say what I don't really know for sure. But I feel like still sort of leaning into that fear and getting more comfortable with that fear, whether it's procrastination, whether it's anxiety and everything. Like, just the more you're exposed to it, the more you're cut, the duller the blade becomes. Does that make sense? If I were to get all metaphorical about it, I still feel like that's true. Let's see, what else we got going? Yeah. How do I go about researching a topic? And Clorox bleach needs to take a dump. Okay. Well, you can do that. That's fine. Nobody's watching. I can't do it because they're watching me if I did it right now. Although that might get a lot of views. I don't know. So how do I go about researching a topic? It's actually funny. I do have an assistant that helps me out with that a little bit. He kind of just finds articles for me. But something that I find is that really it's not a very straightforward thing. I've been trying to systemize it and make it more of a steady thing, something that I can apply to videos one after another. But it's really a lot of just like reading stuff and finding an idea over here that somehow connects to an idea over here. And there's a lot of walking my dog around and just letting those ideas kind of stew in my head and figure out that way. It's not a straightforward process. But it's just a lot of sitting around and reading and thinking and writing. Sometimes as I'm writing about this topic, some other topic might pop in. It's kind of a big soup bowl. I've tried actually to explain that to people, or to engage other people to make it, like I said, more systematic. But it's something I've struggled with. More driving videos. Man, I haven't done those in a long time. My best friend down in San Antonio always would freak out. She thought I would get into a wreck. Let's see. I got just a couple more minutes. Let me just answer a couple more questions here. Some of my fears: deep, dark water, which is ironic because I scuba dive. Crickets, not spiders. You're afraid of crickets but not spiders? Okay. Public speaking, of course, and falling off a cliff. Well, falling off a cliff. I have this weird fear of falling off a cliff. Of course you have a fear of that. It's like having a fear of getting hit by a car. Nobody wants that to happen. I have a question. Do you ever take part in some bong rips? I've never used a bong. Why do so many people fear clowns? I'm one of them, and you have no idea why. Wow, really? Ooh, okay. You know, I've actually read some stuff on that, and I shouldn't have even said that I've read stuff because I don't remember what they said. But there is. Hmm. I don't want to insult what you do, so please don't take this that way. Whatever you want to do is cool, but like I think of what I read was that there is actually some sort of innate like primal thing about clowns that is scary to people. It's like it's not just an up here thing. It's like a deep down primal thing. Uh, I feel like I just really insulted you. I really didn't mean for that. But that's what I've heard. I've heard it's actually like a lot more than a societal thing. It's like something deep down. Um, Sorry. Okay, I got ended on a better note than that. What else we got here? This is the last one. Last question. Um, Terrified by roaches. Roaches don't really bother me that much. They're just gross. Let's get a good question here that I can end on. I'm afraid of not being a part of the future, says Marwin Nakur. That is something I've talked about. Okay, that's my last question. Love you guys, but that's my last question. I do believe in future FOMO. I am always feeling like I'm not gonna get to see like there's some amazing stuff that's gonna happen just outside of my lifetime that I'm not gonna get to see, and I'm like jealous of people that are younger than me or that are being born right now that might get to see this stuff. So that is, I think that's a very modern fear, and I talked about this before. I think 100 years ago, especially 200 years ago, life wasn't that much more different than it was 2,000 years before that. But we see such an amazing pace of change in our lifetimes, year to year, and even month to month these days, that the idea that we're going to miss out on something amazing just outside of our lifespans, I think is something that maybe other people in history didn't have up until maybe about 150 years ago or so. I think that's interesting. I think that is one of a million different things that we are experiencing right now that is, we're the first people in human history to ever experience that. So that's a good place to end. I feel like I finished on something remotely profound. So for you guys that checked in, especially early, man, apologies. I know it was a cluster at the beginning of this. Hopefully I'll get this down a little bit better. Hopefully these will start looking and sounding a little bit better as we go along. And maybe I'll keep these a little bit more concise. I think this one ran a little bit long. But first time, what can you do? I want to thank you guys again for coming in here. There will be regular videos on Monday. I didn't hit this last one because I knew I'd be doing these. The topic that I'm working on became a lot more complicated than I thought. You were asking about how I go about researching this one. It's funny, some of them I can find an article and it's just like, oh, boom, right there. I can just make a video out of that. And then some of them I'll like read an article and then I'll read another article and then another one. And it's still so over my head that I've got to like figure out what this means and that means. And I'm going down this massive rabbit hole. And I don't want to have to, I don't want to come on here and be like, this is cool, but I don't really understand it. You guys go research it yourself, because that's not why I do this. I'm here to like give you guys some answers. That's why it's in the name. So it got thrown back a little bit, but I think I'm on board to get there on Monday. These are not replacing our Monday videos. This is just a little thing for February, and we'll see how they go. All right, so I do have to jump off. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And tomorrow at 2 Central, or wherever you are, we'll do this again, and I have another topic for you. I'm signing off. Sayonara. You guys take care. Peace.